Today, I'm joined by Claire Burroughs. Claire is the managing director and owner of Ansacom, a telephone answering service, but she's also a director of Easichat, a leading live chat messaging system that combines the speed and efficiency of AI chatbots with human touch. And not only that, she's also a director and co-owner of the Farm Process Management, who generate qualified leads for your business through a structured communication plan. So welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. So Claire, just give us a brief overview about your numerous businesses that you've got and you're involved in.
Well, I started Ansacom 24 years ago. It came out of us having a telemarketing agency. It was me, had a telemarketing agency, and decided I'd preferred the idea of just adding to the pot rather than going out and getting more pipeline, and getting to know clients better, because when you're answering their phones, you know them so much better. So I started that, as I say, 24 years ago. And then I decided that the telephones were actually not going to be the main source of communication forever. And live chat is an opportunity for us, because the balance of phone against chat is going to change. It's already started. So I started with a chat soft service. I used a really expensive system. Then I used a free system. They were all shocking. And then I put a wish list down of exactly what I wanted. And I met a guy who's now my co-founder. And Easichat has been born to mainly for the telephone answering service or call center industry, and for the motor trade. And then following on from that, my business partner John, who I met through just before lockdown, I met because we were at an event and he turned up in a Lamborghini car, so I thought he's going to be my friend forever, not that I'm fickle or anything. And we both decided we wanted to do an outbound telemarketing agency again. I said I didn't want to run it. We own it 50-50, but I said to him, it's over to you. And so we've now got these 3 businesses.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for giving that overview. And look, but I'm always interested in learning about how people became business owners. So, taking yourself back sort of 24 years, why did you decide to become a business owner? Was it something you always wanted to do, or why did you become a business owner?
Well, I blame my dad, actually. So my dad owned a publishing company while I was growing up. We grew up in America.
Okay.
And then we came back and he left his company that he was working for and started his own publishing company. He was very successful. I was the worst employee. I'm sure I still would be. I think I'm unemployable completely. But then I do have bosses in all my clients. It's just a different relationship.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like doing the mundane day-to-day work. I was a salesperson for many years, but the commission was always difficult to get. So I just decided to do it myself. And that's what I did. I opened a telemarketing agency on my own, and that was my first business.
Okay, great. And what was the main reason? Was it there that you just you felt you weren't a great employee, you'd be a better employer, or was there other reasons that you did that? That you sort of said, no, actually, I want to. Look, some of the things I've heard from other people, like the money, the freedom, the flexibility on time. Was there other things that linked to that?
So freedom of time was my biggest factor.
Okay.
When I started Ansacom, I was already married. I had a little girl.
Okay.
And I wanted the flexibility that if she got ill or my husband had a really good job, it was always on me. And if I needed to take time out for whatever reason, I had to be able to take time out. And being an employer, I know how difficult that is now for people who are employed just to keep saying, oh, my child's ill and I can't work today. And as an employer, it is frustrating, but you have to support people through it. I'm not sure any of my bosses would have been that supportive at the time. So I then got divorced, not because of the job, but I then got divorced, and Ansacom has brought up 2 children with me.
Wow.
Because we're a bit of a family in here. And I always say to people, it's survived 2 children, a divorce and 2 recessions and a lockdown.
Wow.
So we're still here, and actually having that freedom of time and being able to employ the people around you who are going to support you, especially when you're on your own, is important. And you do support and help each other.
Yeah. How important is that, Claire, to surround yourself by great people? Because, you mentioned there, about, one of the reasons was that freedom of time, but you can only actually really get that freedom of time if you surround yourself by great people that can, step in if you need to take time off, etc. So how important is that to have those great people around you?
It's vital. Even now, it's vital. Everyone needs time off. And actually, last April, just gone, I decided to take the month off just to see how they coped. Yeah. They had the best month of the year, obviously. But it allows you to see by the questions that keep coming back to you where your gaps are. I work towards having a self-managing business, because you can't think about your next plans if you're constantly in the engine room. Yeah. So I decided to do that. It was a great exercise. I was very relaxed by the time I came back. I still worked every day for a few hours. But it was a really, really good opportunity to see who the people were that stepped up, and the gaps in skills that we had.
Okay.
And I put in a few changes when I came back. But freedom of time, freedom of money is incredible. I bought my house in just after lockdown. First time I'd been able to do that for years, obviously being a single parent. So I've reached a number of milestones, and I think being an employee, I probably wouldn't have had those opportunities. And I love watching people grow. Absolutely love watching people grow. And I'm in control. Maybe I'm sounding a bit like a control freak, actually, but I'm in control of that. And that, to me, is why I do it.
Right. Thank you, Claire. And look, Claire, you've got a number of successful businesses. What would you put that success down to?
Probably down to employing the right people.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone has their unique ability.
Yeah.
I know I have got 5 unique abilities, and they're things that I'm really good at and I really like doing.
Yeah.
I make sure that those 5 things are what I focus on. And actually, I regularly do that exercise with my team to go through their jobs and say, right, what do you choose 5 things out of your job you really love doing and you're really good at?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that's all you're going to do, but let's focus on those, because you're in work for so long in your life. So a big part of your day, a big part of your week, you've got to really enjoy it, and you've got to love what you're doing and enjoy it and be good at it.
Absolutely. It tends to be, what you love doing, you tend to be really good at doing as well.
Yeah.
So, and look, what's your top thing that your top out those top 5? What's your top thing, Claire, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, sales, buzz of the sale.
Okay.
And it still is. Even yesterday, I got an introduction to a fantastic lady who was head of a big motor group, massively into the motor trade. Okay. And just having an hour with her through an introduction, we will do work together. It won't be immediate, but we will do work together. And there will be a lot of introductions between us. That's my buzz.
Brilliant. And actually, I like what you said there. We will do work together. It may not be sort of straight away. And I think that's, for me, that's one of the keys in sales, isn't it? That actually sales isn't all about selling now. It's about, understanding where that person is on their journey and nurturing them towards a sale, not necessarily trying to sell to them straight away. So
Yeah, you're absolutely
you mentioned sales there. How important is sales to a business?
Well, for my business, we are a turnover business.
Mm-hmm.
We are a lot of people. I mean, I always hear it's all about the profit. It's all about the profit. It's all about profit. You have to make a profit. I live and die by my P&L.
Okay.
And if it's not with me on my computer by the 14th of every month, I'm having a heart attack. But actually determining who our clients are, who are the ones that are causing me aggravation, and what my next biggest check is, they're my important milestones. So I look at it that there are clients under a certain value in invoice that go to my sales manager, and the big ones come to me.
Okay.
And actually being able to deal with those bigger clients, and building and growing them is more important than getting loads of little ones is really good, but getting the odd big one it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to my team as well. They love that consistency. And we've started to focus a lot on working with clinics.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how I got into this, but I love it. We are the new patient booking line for about a dozen surgeries, dental practices, private hospitals. And everything I do, data is so important. Data is everything. So a normal receptionist is unlikely to capture the information and put it on a spreadsheet for every single call every day. But because we run a scripting system, I can tell any client at any time how many new inquiries they've had in a day and what they are, who they were.
Yeah.
And they can then track those through to make sure that it's been followed up. Has it reached a sale? And I know we're outsourced, and the outsourced businesses do come under quite a lot of scrutiny because we're not part of the company. But actually the data we provide and working with customers, communication between us is so important.
Yeah.
My customer service manager is amazing. And she knows more about my customers than I do, which is actually the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
But she becomes their manager of their reception team.
Okay.
So turnover is really important, but actually for me, the making sure we keep clients, our average client duration is 3.5 years, which is really high for this industry.
And by the way, I love it that you know those numbers as well. As you say, you mentioned that data is key for your clients, but it's key in any business, isn't it? And the fact that you know what your retention is for the average client is great. That's so important. And okay, and what would you say the biggest sort of challenge that you've faced as a business owner is, Claire?
How long have you got?
Let's pick the top one that you can think of.
National minimum wage.
Okay.
That is the biggest challenge. Well, because every year for the last 3 years, it's gone up by 10%. If I put my prices up by 10% every year for the last 3 years, I'd have I'd have very few customers.
Yeah.
So our margins are tight and there's very little I can do about it, which is frustrating. I do put my prices up every year. We don't do it all in one go. I've started to stage it. So it's every month a different batch of clients goes up. So I'm not making the business vulnerable in any way. And it's always by the same percent, but people won't accept 10% every year. And that is my biggest challenge. Profit is my biggest challenge.
And so you mentioned there's some of the things you overcome. That is the ways you overcome that is to put up your prices, but 10% is difficult, and you've staged that with clients. What other things have you done to overcome that challenge of the national living wage, but also the to increase your profitability?
Well, you do offer different services. That's one thing. We are very, very focused on making sure that our agents answer between 12 and 14 calls in an hour.
Okay.
It obviously depends on what skill they're on. So if they're dealing with all the clinics, it's not going to be that many because a call will last 10 minutes. But they are all incentivized to earn extra money by doing a better job.
Okay.
That has made a big difference because obviously my biggest cost is wages, and making sure that everyone that we've got is fully trained to the best they can be before we bring on someone else. That's always a focus. That probably is key to profitability. My wages go up a bit and my turnover comes down. I mean, it can be tiny before we make no money.
Yeah. Okay.
So now, as I say, going back to the beginning, turnover for me is everything. Turnover is everything. The more calls I get, the more minutes we answer, the more money I make.
Right. So focusing on that turnover. And what would you say the biggest learning is since you've been in business, Claire?
Oh, probably. Well, there were quite a few, but I would say dealing with people.
Okay.
And being fair. I have this big thing that if my dad told me this when I first started. He said, the one thing, Claire, bearing in mind you're employing people, if they hand in their resignation, you should never be surprised.
Yeah.
You should be close enough to your team that you should never be surprised. If you have to tell them off for something or hold a disciplinary meeting, they should never be surprised. So I've always worked to that. Obviously, I've had to let people go. That's the most difficult thing, but I've learned not to be scared of it. I never enjoy it. But probably HR is my biggest learning and the one thing that I don't like. Dealing with HR, it takes up all my time.
It certainly can be a minefield, can't it? But
I'm confident with it, and I know I'm pretty good at it. I could probably be an HR director now if ever I wanted another job in my life. But probably dealing with people has been my biggest learning.
Yeah, and it's so important, isn't it? All the sayings about look after your people and they'll look after you, and and it is, as we were talking about earlier, it's the people that run the business. They're the ones that I always think the main role of the business owner, or if the business owner's got a general manager, etc., is to look after the people. And then the people look after the customers. That's the clients, that's their role. But the main role of the business owner or the general manager is to look after the people.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a Richard Branson quote, that wasn't it, about, I can't even remember it, but there is, everyone can look it up probably, but there is a Richard Branson quote about how important people are. And I'm going to have to go and find it after this.
Yeah, well, look, I'm sure now everybody watching this is going to be Googling that. What was that Richard Branson quote? But yeah, there are things like, sayings like that your people are your biggest liability, but also your biggest asset as well. And yeah, sort of that looking after your people, training them, providing learning opportunities, providing career opportunities, making sure they're paid fairly. They don't necessarily need to be paid the best, but they need to be paid fairly. providing a great work environment for them. All of these things are so important, particularly in the environment today, because there are a lot of opportunities out there for employees. They can quite easily move to other employers if they're not feeling that the current employer is giving them what they need. So
yeah, and also it's recognizing people's skills. So we've obviously, the live chat has become a big part of what we do. And recognizing that one of my girls, who is part-time, has a really, really good mind for technology, and bit creative. So she looks after my live chat team now. And seeing her grow into AI and understanding AI and embracing AI has been a game changer. We won AI Startup of the Year this year for the Southeast.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And actually, although I am obviously very heavily involved in that business, being able to offer that service to other telephone answering companies through Easichat, I just know that the live chat service will absolutely come to life.
Yeah.
Not many people use it at the moment. Everyone's a bit scared of it, but you should never be scared of live chat. So long as it's done well, it is the best communicator ever. The best communication tool really is.
I think that's the key, and that you said there, as long as it's done well. So and people are afraid of it, or not necessarily afraid of it, but there's a reluctance to use it. I want to speak to a person. But I absolutely agree with you that psychology will change.
Yeah.
And linking back to what you just sort of said there is what came to mind there was making sure that you've got the right person in the right seat. Because you can have a great employee, but actually if they're in the wrong seat, that's not going to work. So yeah, the right employee in the right seat. So Claire, look, there's one question I like to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me on these discussions is, and that question is, what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you?
Oh, that's a really interesting one, because I got it all wrong. 18-year-old me, I would say, don't be scared to go for what you're good at. Don't go for what necessarily is going to make you the money. Mainly probably because that's what I did. Took me a long time to work out where I was going and what I was doing. But I think every 18-year-old is different. I'm very fortunate that my two daughters are doing fantastically post-university. But yeah, I would say don't be afraid to go for what you're good at and what you're enjoying.
Yeah, fantastic piece of advice. And I think that links back to what we sort of said earlier, because if you're doing what you enjoy, you tend to be good at it.
Yeah.
And then you can also then work out, well, okay, if you want to make more and more money, you can work out, well, how do I monetize what it is that I enjoy?
Yeah.
Well, Claire, look, I've really enjoyed our conversation today, and I've been putting some notes down here, but so there's some great things I've picked up here, which just reading a few of them out. Surround yourself by great people. How important sales are in an organization. Knowing your numbers as well. You talked about your P&L, and data is key. And client retention. Focus on client retention, and treating your team fairly. So some really great learnings there, Claire. So thank you very much. I've really appreciated you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your businesses and your journey.
Thank you so much. Thanks very much.